Hello and welcome to Further Inside Chor Leoni. My name is Eric Light and I am the artistic director of Chor Leoni Men's Choir here in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I am super excited to have one of my good friends and somebody I admire so much in this choral field with us today to talk about his work and his process and a little bit about himself. The Latvian superstar, Ēriks Ešenvalds. Hello, Ēriks.
Hello, Eric. How are you?
It's great. I'm Happy New Year. I'm doing all right. I'm still waiting to get back to normal, and hopefully this year brings a little bit of that. But I think we're all sort of waiting for those things. I might as well just lead with this. How are you doing during this pandemic? Are you writing furiously? How has this been for you as a transition?
Since I'm stuck in my house because I teach my students from my house, so I should be composing very much. But the truth is that I compose very, very slow.
And so,
Hello.
are you? Hello, who is this?
Our little son.
This is great because we've now had two. When I've done this program now, Jason Max Ferdinand had his daughter on the show. So this is it's a family affair. Um, Tell us. I mean, your work has been sung by so many choirs across the world. Tell us just the quick story of how you became a composer and how Whitney Houston made a big difference in your life.
Oh, it's true. It's true that Whitney Houston was my first teacher. I was 10 years old approximately when Whitney was everywhere on TV, on radio, on audio cassettes. Do you remember these things?
Oh yes, very well.
And Latvia was still under the Soviet Union, and we loved her songs. But I, as a music student in children music school, in Soviet time, we couldn't buy her scores. It was just forbidden.
Right.
So, but since I was piano student and I was very good in piano, and also my ear training was very good, so I learned to play her most beautiful songs by myself on piano, and I analyzed, and I was surprised that her songs consisted of just 5, 6 different chords, not more. Like F
Right.
major, D minor, GM7. So easy. So that was my beginning. I started to write my own tunes using similar chords, just changing order. And I tried and I tried. So that was the beginning of my first tunes.
Right. And were they in a pop style or were they classical but using some of that harmonic vocabulary?
That was like Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words.
Ah,
Um, because at the age of 10, I didn't know how to put words together with melody. So
right.
that was only instrumental tunes on the piano.
Sure. And when did the change and the decision and the study come in your life to become a composer in a more formal kind of
This
way?
is a very good question and very important question. Um, I was singing in a children's choir at that time when I was 10, 11. And I was in a fun mood that evening, I remember in that rehearsal, and there was a 5-minute break. And I was just sitting in my chair, and I took my pencil and I just wrote some notes, some music. And lyrics were la 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 la. And then older singer next to me, she saw it and she said, "Oh, you have written something. You have composed something. why don't you show it to the conductor? I did it. And the conductor played it on the piano. It didn't sound nothing special. But she said me one important sentence. She said, Ēriks, maybe you should compose. And this sentence stuck in my mind, and that all happened in those 5-minute break. After the rehearsal, I went home and I just went to my piano and I sat at it and I thought, how is it to compose? And that was the time when Whitney Houston was there. And it all came together. This one encouragement by the conductor, and this is the importance of the conductors, of the teachers, when you have this privilege to tell something very special, individual, to every of your singers, to every of your students. Maybe you should try to do this and that, and you never know, and miracles will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I had never heard you tell that story before, and that is so beautiful and such an important takeaway for people like me and other conductors, the folks that come into our lives. We have ways to shape them and encourage them in ways that we sometimes, maybe on a daily basis, don't even realize. It is very powerful, isn't it?
Yes, and now when I am a teacher, when I'm a professor of composition at Music Academy here in Riga, I have my students and I just keep reminding myself this important thing. Stay open, stay with open mind and be ready to encourage your students. Yeah.
Right. And maybe that the other part of it is that as people come into your lives, they're all going to find their own path and they're going to do it in their own ways, and not to maybe put our thoughts, on top of their people. There's so many ways that you can compose. There's so many ways you can be an artist, so many ways that you can create, whether that's in an amateur choir, like some of my singers in Chor Leoni, or being a professional composer like you. There's so many journeys to have and ways that enriches our life. I love that story. I want to ask you,
Eric, and isn't Eric?
Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't it so interesting that in our choirs, we have singers from different professions: biologists, mathematicians, physicians, drivers, pilots, presidents, all of different fields, and so the choir today, community choirs, they are so enriched with these different professions, yeah. That and I remember that in your choir you had several pastors.
Yes, we have. Yes, we do. A bishop. We have a bishop. Oh. Yeah, and I have to say, having lived a part of my life in the full-time professional world and now working with amateurs, the enrichment of the various occupations and interests that my amateur choir has given so much to me. Working with other professional musicians, they do similar things to like what I do. But the gift that these folks bring to me with their different perspectives, that has been such an enriching process. And I think it changes how amateur choirs approach their music and how they sing it, and how, I think a little bit on how it's received versus the professionals. And I think, yes, they're amateur choirs, but I think in some ways there's some beautiful, really unique and beautiful aspects of it as well.
Yes, indeed.
I want to get into a couple other questions about you, and I want to ask you this question. So fast forward, you're now composing. You've done your studies. You're writing music. Clearly, choral music has become you've become very much synonymous with it. It's certainly not all that you write. You've written opera, orchestral works, etc., etc. But certainly, choral works is I would call maybe the core of at least how people know you. I want to ask you a question. how, in your mind, do you think about voices fitting together? And I mean that in terms of person to person, but as well as maybe when you're thinking about, sopranos, altos, tenors, basses, when you're thinking about putting voices together, maybe versus a solo song or an art song or an aria and an oratorio, what is different for you when you're assembling voices in your writing?
I think I have grasped wonderful discovered techniques by my colleagues from previous centuries. So I have studied their work, Mahler, Bach, Debussy, Richard Strauss, yeah. I just, somehow my ear was paying attention to balanced pages of their scores, where the voices are balanced. Yeah, so the ensemble sound is like priority. There are no pioneers. Right. It's ensemble, and then I discovered that every choir has their unique ensemble sound, because every singer has different voice. And so the mastery is hidden, how they will blend their voices together. And then it's in the conductor's hands to shape this ensemble sound. At the beginning, it will be like raw diamond. But as you keep polishing and as they keep listening to each other, this ensemble sound becomes like pure diamond. Polished, but in every rehearsal, keep polishing, and then it suddenly just starts to bloom. And when the ensemble sound starts to bloom, then there is this amazing freedom that you can go to that direction, to another stylistical direction, but there is this unique unitedness in the voices of the singers. So it's ensemble sound what is a priority to me.
To you, and so your writing is trying to move that group of people toward that sound. We as a choir are trying to achieve what you want, but you are also trying to write in a way that brings us to that place. Is that a correct way to think about it?
Yes, in my music I have melody and kind of accompaniment, in the choir. Like mostly sopranos will have melody, and the other voices are like supporting them with a bass line and with harmony voices and in the polyphonical additional voices. But when I compose, I don't see it like melody and accompaniment. I see it as the soundscape of the story. It's like a cloud, like sound cloud. And I am just shaping it, and then it speeds up, and then it goes higher, and then it splits in the voices, in divisi, and so many possibilities. But I hear it and I see it as a soundscape of the story.
Do you feel that voices do this better than other kinds of music? Like, if you're writing for string orchestra, perhaps, do you feel the same way about the possibilities for, divisi and those blooming as you would, maybe for strings as you would voices, or do they have unique qualities, or is one better than another?
To me, the choir is like symphony orchestra, where in symphony orchestra, you have certain qualities like first and second violins playing in octaves. It's a super color, beautiful color. And I
Right.
have this technique in a choir, when sometimes sopranos are singing, but then there is some whistling above it, like first and second violins and octaves. Then the basso profondo, the double bass and cello. So I see the choir, the choir performance as a symphony orchestra performance. Yeah, but the choir
Right.
sound it's different from the symphony orchestra, of course. Somehow I see symphony orchestra players, they are kind of protected. They are protected by their instruments, be it clarinet or oboe. Right. And these instruments have been manufactured, but still they sound the same, like so similar to each other. Yeah. But the choir sound, the singers are not protected. They only are using their naked voice, that's all. Their voice, and it comes just out of their body, and such directness from their emotional soul, this is such a power, just with
Right.
articulation and other possibilities. So the choir sound is very, very unique.
I would imagine, well, if you would agree with me on this, if you put a piece of orchestral music in front of a Latvian orchestra and then an orchestra from Chicago, it's going to sound similar, but a choir from Latvia and a choir from Chicago are going to sound massively different. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes. Because we are singing just with our bodies, and this is our cultural heritage. This is our language. This is
exactly
our training. This is our world, or season, summer or winter. I don't know, but this is how we sound.
And you have been and this leads to my question of, you've been in this wonderful position that your music has been sung all over the world, every single continent. Has any of your music been done in Antarctica yet?
Yes, last week I received an invitation from choir of penguins.
Good. Well, I'm glad you can tick that off the box. But what I'm interested in is, you've now heard so many of your pieces sung from those cultural perspectives of people in Asia, people in Australia, people in the United States, people in Canada, and I would guess that every one of those performances has different qualities. How have you reacted to that? I do know some composers that really only like their music sounding a certain way. And I know you're also very particular. You have a wonderful ear, and you definitely have your opinions. But how has that been to feel your music interpreted in a global kind of way?
Yeah, this is I have been involved in many juries of choral competitions. So, and this is a time when we jury members, we have to step into the professional field of experience, education, and so on. But priority first is that I do value every single performance. Was it good? Was it less good? Was it perfect? But this is priority. Yeah, I'm very happy for every single performance of my music, and but I will also be happy to share with them how I composed that piece, what I had in mind. And so I will try to explain what voice colors should be in this crescendo moment, what voice color should be in this pianissimo page. Yeah, there are choirs who love to sing every different stylistical piece, even pieces from different centuries, in one style. Just with big vibrato or complete sterile sound, like zero vibrato. And be it Arvo Pärt, or be it Morten Lauridsen, or be it Erik Whittaker, or be it Bach, but all those different century composers sang with one voice timbre. This is not good. This is not good. And I think even in amateur choirs, it is such an exciting journey when they are able to sing something of Palestrina, in Palestrina style, something gospel music in gospel style. So this experience and knowledge how to change the voices, singing different music. This is not just bold education. It is enriching experience during your life. Yeah. Okay, let us try to learn some African folk song, and let's listen to that, how they use their voices. Maybe some of our singers can also do overtone singing, something from Mongolian, or so. There are such choral pieces. So you see, this is such a, I'm very happy when I see choirs with open horizon in their imagination. Right. They are ready to learn new things.
And I think that was you just said the word that I, when I'm working with other, especially if I'm doing clinics or those sorts of things, I'm working with other choirs, you can almost tell immediately if that group has imagination or they don't. And when you have that imagination and that openness to your imagination and that willingness to try things, it's the sky's the limit, right?
Yes, and very often when I'm invited to do a workshop with a choir, I have only one plea. I ask them, please be flexible and be ready to follow me, to come with me into my journey. And at the end of the rehearsal, you will find out that was not Ešenvald's journey. That was not Ešenvald's story. That story now had become your story because you have understood the song. Now you have, now you understood the story, and now you are ready to color this score with coloring pencils from your life.
Right. Have you had experiences where you've gone to hear a choir or gotten a recording from a choir where you've heard an interpretation or a vocal color or something that just completely surprised you and maybe shocked you, that there was something inside of your piece that you didn't even know was there? Have you had that, or is it more of people understanding kind of what was in your imagination?
Yes, there have been quite a lot such moments when I have been surprised. Oh my goodness, I didn't expect the song to sound so great. Yeah. So
and that's better than if it sounds really bad, right? Yeah.
So yes, sometimes it has been in terms of tempo. I have composed a piece in one tempo, in one speed, but then the conductor surprised me with a little bit slower or even faster tempo, yeah. And with his choir or her choir, it sounded wonderful, yeah. So I also myself, I'm keeping my horizon wide, yeah. So I wouldn't become ironish composer.
Right.
No.
And we thank you for that. And and I've worked with you both as a conductor, conducting your pieces, commissioned works from you, and I've also produced albums of your music. And I've been a part of those conversations of deciding on tempo. And it's one thing when it's maybe one performance, but when you're going to make a recording that then lots and lots of people are going to hear over and over and over again, I feel like there's a great responsibility. And I have to say, I've always found you to be an extraordinary collaborator in that way. One of the best that I've certainly ever worked with. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we had a wonderful collaboration. I still remember when we did the premiere of the 3 songs with Leonard Cohen poems.
Yes, Wandering Heart. Yes, yeah.
Yes, and your choir, I was immediately surprised by the ensemble, how they blended together. Fantastic. I when I heard it,
I have to, yeah. And what's wonderful is that we did that premiere, and then we recorded those works, and we've been singing them. I bring them back, if we go on a tour or something like that. They're such fabulous works. We've done them with dancers, etc. But every time that I come to them, I'm a different person when I'm coming back to doing 12 o'clock chant or one of those pieces, and I have ideas about the piece, and there's the same. I'm still the same person, but we always are doing little bit different things with it, and it still very much comes across as the same work of yours. But I find it very interesting that not a lot of composers that, especially modern composers that I do, whose works that I conduct, sometimes I find that it comes out more the same. And I find that your works have some room for that interpretation. And I just wanted to ask, is that something that you feel like you build into the pieces that you are writing? That space for the performer, that space for the conductor to have that interpretation? Is that conscious on your part as you're writing down?
I think I keep in mind that every piece can be performed by just 24 singers or 60 singers. Yeah, and this is that the tempo, the speed of the song will be different because
of the breath and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. I call that staggered breathing. I call this capability to have staggered breathing. It adds the depth. While 24 singers choir will have more frontal sound. Yeah.
Right.
But Chor Leoni,
that immediacy. Yeah.
But Chor Leoni, oh my goodness, you had how many? 60 singers? How many we were?
800 singers, I think. No. 60. We've been about 60 tenors and basses. But it's just been wonderful to hear all of the different recordings and performances of your pieces, and each of them, every time I hear a new one, I feel like I'm learning something different in your work. I have 2 more questions for you for this part of our show here. You are been a real master at creating new textures and soundscapes for voices. You mentioned using overtone singing and those sorts of things, but that's not just your one trick that you've been using, over and over again. I'm constantly seeing you creating other textures and sounds and depths of sound using spatial elements, etc., for your works. And in fact, as a record producer, it's been really fun for me to try to heighten that what's in your imagination to put it onto a recording, because it's really fun. You can screw around with how you record the pieces. Are there places that you are hoping to go with soundscapes? Are there textures that you still haven't explored, and what might they be? What can we expect from Ēriks Ešenvalds in the next 10, 20 years?
I don't know. God give me wisdom. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is kind of some speed in my compositional writing calendar. How many new colors are appearing in my new works, I would say very slowly new colors come in.
It's an evolution.
Yes, but this evolution somehow comes, I would say it comes out of nowhere. It comes just, is it idea just came in my mind, or I don't know. This is question without answer. I think,
is it still important for you to find it? Does that matter, or is it now finding new harmonic things, or do you care? It seems like you still are exploring that area of the soundscape and the texture. Yes.
Yeah, I hope so. But the priority is story, to find a story. The story which will have a beautiful landscape, the story which is like a beautiful picture, a painting. And so I can turn this painting into the sound world. Yeah, so I can see what kind of sky is in that painting, what kind of water, what kind of cliff, clouds, grass. So what are the colors there in that story? So I can smell them, I can see them, I can feel them, I can grasp them, touch them. So I can feel that story with my whole body if I would be there in that story somewhere. And then I try to translate them into the sound world, sound painting. Yeah. So these colors are based on story.
And you actually lead exactly into my last question. What are the stories that you're hoping to tell? Has what's happened in the world the last year, has that influenced you? Has that changed your perspective? Are there other stories that you are new kinds of stories that you want to tell that may be different than what you were interested in maybe 10, 20 years ago?
This is a hard question, because this pandemic has put the whole world on long fermata. Terrible fermata. Everyone has been affected, and I hate this fermata, and I'm angry on this pandemic, on this virus, stupid virus, that I I feel I don't want to devote a single bar of my music to it. I just want to ignore it.
I understand that. Mm-hmm.
Because when I look in the past, you know, the real art, the true artworks, they are not related to social problems. They are not related to viruses. Those real artworks who have survived for centuries, they have overlived generations. These are about love, about care, about truth, about God, about beautiful life. Yes, about sorrow, but the art is inviting us. No, don't break down. Look up, follow the good thoughts, look over the centuries. Yeah, so I feel I want to look higher. I want to look up to inspiring things. So I'm just patiently waiting when this pandemic will disappear. Yeah.
You have given so many people, including me, so much of that inspiration and so much of that vision of hope, of that vision of caring, of that vision of love. And I want to thank you for you being you, and for your faith in those ideas. It's important to all of us, and it does make a difference. I have to tell you, on a daily basis, the work that you do, and so many people in this field, it really matters. So I want to thank you for all that you do, and also for sharing your thoughts with us today. It's a real honor.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.